Two police officers were driving down the road on a quiet summer night when they spotted something strange. There was a car stopped at the side of the road, but it was in a position that a car shouldn't stop in since it was out in the middle of the road. Two of the police officers walked around to the car to investigate, and they nearly got sick when they realized what they saw. They had seen a woman lying lifeless inside the car with towels stuffed into her body and most of her organs removed. One of the police officers turned around and got sick, but the other was more experienced and was used to seeing sick things, so he just took out his notebook and started writing down notes. Then he rang back to the station to call in the crime scene. The police officers wondered what type of sick person could do that to anyone. They wondered, was it some dark ritual or even a sacrifice taking the baby out of the body, because there were really strange stories around the town for years and years of witchcraft rituals in the woods, and this road was by the woods. When they went back to investigate more looking into the car, they felt a strange presence, and when they looked back into the back seat, they froze in fear of what they saw. They turned around and saw a baby stare at them, and not cry or whimper, but they still knew the baby was alive. They couldn't comprehend how the baby got into the car, and also wondered how the baby could have survived being taken out of the mother's body. The two officers seemed to be in a daze. When they took the baby out of the car, one of the officers realized there was a newspaper article stuck in the baby's hand. It was as if the baby was clutching onto it for dear life. The newspaper article was about a serial killer that died in prison 2 days ago, and before his death he became obsessed with being reborn through a human sacrifice. It sounded sick, so he didn't read on. One of the officers had a crazy idea he didn't tell anyone, but since he had the opportunity he went ahead with it, and knew people in the right places, so he got someone to run a DNA test on the baby. A shiver ran up his spine when he realized a hit came up on file, which was the same match as the murderer who wrote the notes about being reborn through a human sacrifice. Tony was in the woods last week with a few of his friends, and they were with this guy that was new from school, who claimed to know all about black magic. Tony and his friends didn't take him seriously. The guy was called Gerald. Gerald had asked Tony did he know much about black magic, and Tony said, trying to keep a straight face, "Oh yeah, I could write a book on it." His friends knew he was being sarcastic. A few nights later, Tony was sitting down watching TV when he had spotted something on the ground that hadn't been there before. He was trying to figure out how it got there. It seemed to be a book. The cover was just plain, and the book didn't seem to have any title. He began to start reading it. He read, "I was just sitting down, relaxing, reading, when I started hearing weird sounds, but I didn't know which direction they were coming from. It just seemed like there was a weird sound in my ears. Then suddenly the lights went out for a second and came back on again." Tony felt a shiver run up his spine as the lights in his living room had just gone out the second he had read that the light had gone out, and then the light came back on again, just like written in the book. He began to read on. He read, "I was wondering what was happening. I felt weird, but I didn't know why. I couldn't explain what was happening. Then suddenly a light entered the room." Tony was freaking out at this stage, as there was a light entered the room after he read about it happening in the book. He had decided to just shut the book and forget about it, but his curiosity was getting the better of him, so he read on. He regretted reading it as soon as he read the sentence, "Gerald walked into my room and went to attack me." Tony knew martial arts, so was ready for him and threw him over his shoulder. Gerald hit his head off an ornament and blood poured from him. Tony knew he had killed him. Tony knew it was self-defense, so had decided to call the police. But before he rang, he saw a page on the floor. He read what was written on it. "Gerald will come back to life and possess your body." Tony turned around, and without even being able to react, was possessed by Gerald. And then Gerald spoke in Tony's body. "Now, Tony, you will be able to write a book all about black magic."
I was 14 at the time. It was an ordinary day. It was a boring Sunday. I had no schoolwork to do or anything. Man, was I bored. So, I decided to go on Instagram for some entertainment. I was scrolling through some pictures and videos. Then all of a sudden, I get a DM. I say, maybe it's someone I know. I go to the DM to check it out, and it's from an older man who I have never seen before. He must have been in his 50s at least. He said that he was looking for a sugar baby. I just responded and told him to leave me alone and that I wasn't interested. When I think about it, I probably should have just blocked him. But then I told him that he was a creep and that I was only 14 years old. Thinking that was the end of it, he responds back to me saying that age is just a number and that he wants to come see me. I told him no, ew, and for him to leave me alone. And I regret it to this day for saying this. But I told him, you don't even know where I live. Then he responds to me with my address and said he is coming to me now. I'm not gonna lie, that scared me a lot because that was actually my real address. I was a little freaked out, but I tried ignoring it and just continuing my day like nothing happened. The next day came and I left for school in the morning. I walked to school. It's about a 15-minute walk. Both my parents couldn't pick me up because they both work in the early morning. As I'm walking to school, I see a car behind me. It felt a little weird as if it was following me, so I ran down a random street to see if the car was actually still following me. And to my surprise, it was. As I was running down the street, I was out of breath and slowed down. The car pulled up to me, and it was the same man I saw on Instagram. I was in shock, and I didn't know what to do, but froze. The man said, "Come in the car, kid. I have some candy for you." I said no thanks, and to leave me alone. I started walking away. He didn't like that, so he followed me from inside the car, then pulled up in front of me, got out of the car, then grabbed me. I was fighting, but he was too strong. He was pulling me to his car, then another car beeps the horn and says, "I'm calling the police." The man then lets go of me, goes back to his car, and drives away. The person from the other car called my parents, and I took the rest of the day off of school to calm down and relax. Missing school that day was the last thing on my mind. It's now 4 years later, and I haven't ever seen the man. I always thought about what would have happened to me if it wasn't for the other car that day. Would I still be alive? I never walked to school since. All I know is I'm lucky to still be alive, and I take every day as it's my last because you never know what could happen.